Chapter 3, Lesson 1, Lines in Space. Okay, we have 3 different options here for what can happen when you have 2 lines. So first of all, the most common is when you draw 2 lines on the same plane and they intersect or they cross at one point. And when we have that one point they cross at, we write it as x comma y. The other option is they are parallel and then they will never cross. And remember back to Algebra 1, we know that 2 lines are parallel if they have the same slope. The last option we have here are skew lines, and skew lines are 2 lines that are not in the same plane. So like if I draw a line on the floor and a line on the wall, those would be skew lines. They're not in the same plane. So first thing we're going to talk about is equations of lines. Going back to Algebra 1, remember that if I have an equation in slope intercept form, that's y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Now remember, the slope of a line is rise over run, and it tells us how to move from point to point. The y-intercept is the starting point on the y-axis. All right, so on these first examples here, remember that the m is the coefficient that's in front of the x. So for the first one, we have y equals negative 1x plus 3. So the slope is negative 1, and the intercept is positive 3. On the second one, y equals negative 2x, so that's my slope, the negative 2, and the intercept is positive 3. Then tell whether each equations describe a line of parallel or intersecting. So these ones, since they are not the same slope, they will intersect. Number 2, y equals 1/2 x plus 1. And the next one is y equals 1/2 x minus 1. These are the same, so these 2 lines are parallel. Y equals 3x plus 4 and y equals 1/3 x plus 4. They are not the same, so they are intersecting. Use the diagram to tell whether each of the statements in exercises 1 through 5 is true or false. Number 1, lines A and B are parallel lines. Well, for line A, we're going to have to pick a point and find the slope. And so when I go from point to point, I go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. And B is also down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So they are parallel. B and C, I don't even have to look or do the slope, I can just look and say they are intersecting. A and C are skew lines. That's false because they are on the same plane. Number 4, the x-axis, which I've drawn here in red, and line B are not parallel. True. Next one, the y-axis and line A are skew lines. False, because they are on the same plane. Find an equation of a parallel line that passes through a given point. So what they're going to do is they're going to give us an equation of a line, and then they're going to say, okay, here's a point over here. Write me the equation of a line that is parallel to the red line, but goes through this point up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to determine the slope of the red line, use that into our slope-intercept form to find the B, which will give us the point up here, and then write our new equation in y equals mx plus b. So number 6 says find the equation parallel to the given line, but going through point 1, negative 1. So So since I know that the line I'm going to write is parallel to this line given, I'm just going to start with y equals negative 4x because they have to have the same slope. What I don't know, though, is my b. That's what I have to determine using the given point here and the slope. So in the given point, remember it goes x comma y. So I'm going to do, instead of y equals, I'm going to do negative 1 equals. And then it goes m, so slope times x, which according to the point is 1, plus b, which we're trying to find to fill in the spot. So that would give me negative 4 plus b. Add 4 to both sides, and I find out that b is 3. So you can tell that these two lines are equal or parallel because they have the same slope, but they have different y-intercepts. The next one, I want a parallel line to y equals 1/3 x and then minus 4. But I want a different intercept. So I'm going to substitute in 3 equals 1/3 times 3 plus b. So 3 equals 1 plus b. So b equals 2. On number 8, y equals 1x, and I don't want the 3, I want something else. So I'm going to do 0 equals 1 times 2 plus b. So 0 equals 2 plus b. So b equals negative 2. The next thing we're going to do in our homework is find the intersection of two lines. So the point where they intersect is what they have in common. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the equations equal to each other, substituting in the y's, solve for x, then substitute that back into the top and solve for y, and list the points as x comma y. So we're going to do this by substitution. You could do it by graphing or elimination, but substitution works best for these. So if I have this, and you don't have to draw a picture, I'm just going to, y equals 2x minus 3, so up 2 over 1. So there's the red line. And the second equation is y equals negative 3x plus 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Down 3 over 1. So we know that the point where these two are going to cross is somewhere in the quadrant 1. So they should both be a positive x and a positive y. So we're going to use substitution. So we're going to circle what y equals and sub it in to the second equation in the place of the y. So instead of y equals, I'm going to write 2x minus 3 equals, and then negative 3x plus 7. There's no distribute, so combine like terms. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. So that gives me 5x minus 3 equals 7. Add 3 to both sides, so 5x equals 10. Divide by 5, so x equals 2. And that's probably pretty close. 2 comma. That has to go back into the circle for substitution to figure out what y equals. So instead of 2x minus 3, I'm going to put 2 times 2 minus 3. So 4 minus 3, which is 1. And that looks pretty darn close to 2 comma 1. On the second one, I'm going to follow the same thing. So I'm going to circle this and sub it in for y. So 2x plus 1 equals negative 1x plus 7. Add 1x to both sides. So 3x plus 1 equals 7. Subtract 1 and divide by 3. Then that goes back up into the circle. So y equals 2 times 2 plus 1. So y equals 5. So those two lines have in common the point 2 comma 5. That's where they cross.